Does it ever feel like no matter how much money you make, at the end of every single month, you just make enough money to cover all of the bills that you have? Now, on my channel, I talk a lot about investing, saving, and generally how to become a better version of yourself. So in today's video, I'm going to be walking you through how I would budget a $60,000 a year annual income and how I would use that money to not only help myself pay down debt, but to also invest in my financial future as well. Now, before I get started, I just want to make sure that I set the stage on two numbers that I'm going to be using. Number one, I'm going to be using a $60,000 a year annual salary. Now, I went on to the US Data and Statistics website, and it showed that the average salary in the US is right around $70,000 a year. Now, that may shock some people, may be extremely high. And on the other end of the spectrum, people may say that's extremely too low. But one thing you have to make sure that you take into consideration on these numbers that I'm giving you is there are some people that live in very expensive locations. So if you're in the San Francisco or the Bay Area, you're in Los Angeles, anywhere in California really, or if you're in New York, in some parts of New Jersey, Miami, some very expensive places to live, it's going to elevate the averages across the country. Now, if you live in middle America, if you live in Pittsburgh, you live in Cleveland, right? In those places, the average salaries are likely going to be much lower than if someone that's living in one of these more expensive cities. So if you're making much less than the $60,000, just make sure you take that into consideration and you just adjust it in your budget. And then secondly, I went on the same website, US Data and Statistics website, and I saw that the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment, it varied. So I saw numbers as low as $1,000 a month up to $2,500 a month. And it's the same thing, right? Depending on where you live in the country is gonna determine how much it's actually gonna cost. So I'm just gonna be using a nice round number right in the middle of $1,500 a month. Again, that may be extremely low for some people, and it may be extremely high for some. Just make sure that you take this into consideration as you're putting your budget together. I'm just giving you the blueprint of how I would actually put this together, and then you can go in and customize it and make it your own. So we're gonna walk through this in steps. And the very first thing that I always tell everyone whenever I'm having a conversation about money is you have to know where your money is going. See, I often give people this analogy. Imagine you are dropped off in the middle of a city. You've never been there before. And I'm telling you, hey, I need you to come to my house that's on the other end of the city. And I need you to be there by a certain time frame because we have people coming over and we're going to be having discussions, and I need you there by 5 o'clock. So generally you have two options in order to make it to my house. You can try to figure it out on your own. You can ask for directions, and you can go a little bit of a distance, pull over, ask someone, are you heading in the right direction? They send you on a wild goose chase. You go down this direction, you end up on the other side of the city, and then you finally get directions and you make it to my house. But by the time you get there, it's too late. Everybody that was there has already left. You made it, but you missed why everyone was getting together. Now, the second way that you can actually get there is you can put that information in your GPS and it'll take you exactly to my house. Now, sure, along the way, there may be some detours, some road closures that may make you go around your projected path, but you ultimately make it to my house and you make it there in time and you're able to participate. And to close the loop on the analogy is I view budgeting like a GPS, and the information that you input into it is the directions that'll get you to your destination. Now, sure, there's gonna be things that happen along the way because life, right? And there's gonna be times where you're gonna have to maybe go in a different direction for a little bit, but you ultimately have all of the information that you need that's gonna get you to your end goal. And everybody's end goal is different, which is why there's no one size fits all strategy. So I'll just give you the blueprint, and you can use that to input your own information that'll get you to the destination that you want to be at. So making sure that you're tracking and you understand where every dollar that comes into your house goes every single month is critical. If you don't do that, then it makes things so much more difficult because you might ultimately reach your destination, but you could have gotten there a lot sooner had you actually had a plan in place. And I'm speaking from experience because in my 20s and in my early 30s, I didn't take my finances as serious as I should have. Now, yeah, I knew what I was supposed to do. I understood. I listened to people. I read books. I had conversations, but I never really applied any of that stuff until around my mid 30s. And that's when I really started to see my net worth and my financial future start to take off. So the second step is we're going to be building out our budget. And the principle and the concept that this is going to be built on is a 50-30-20 budget approach. It's very simple. It's 50% of your take-home pay is going to go towards your needs. So that's like housing, food, things of that nature. 30% is going to go towards your wants. That's going to be for cell phone bills, gym memberships, things of that nature, cars, right? And then the 20% is going to go towards investing and saving. Now, again, I'm going to stop right there because I know I may lose some people when I talk about 50% of your take-home pay going towards your needs. Some people are going to be like, hey, man, my needs are 70% of my take-home pay. That's fine. Remember, this is just the blueprint. We tweak it and we customize it to meet our individual needs. It's a very simple budgeting approach that I actually used when I first started to get serious about my finances. Having this structure will help us to put things in buckets and will ultimately allow us to hit our goals. So I'm going to be working on my iPad here just a little bit, and I'm going to share that on the screen, and I'm going to put together how I would build out this budget to make sure that I can pay all of my bills and pay my bills on time. I can make sure that I'm paying off any debt that I have, if I have any. And then I'm going to have money to invest in the stock market and as well as invest in myself. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up my screen here. And right now I'm really just looking at the EveryDollar app on the Dave Ramsey website. I'm not affiliated with anything Ramsey. I just use this tool because it's a free tool and it helped me to actually be able to put a budget together. You can use whatever budget tracker you want. You can write it down on paper and pen. You can use Mint or any of the other hundreds of budget tracking apps that are out there. Completely your choice. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be using the Ramsey app here. And as you can see at the very top, I have a $5,000 monthly income. That's $60,000 a year. We're not going to be taking into consideration any taxes or anything like that. This is just $5,000 monthly take-home pay. And it's spread out in two paychecks. So we have paycheck one and we have paycheck two. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to scroll down and we're going to look at the savings tab here. Now, this is very important because whenever I actually put my budget together, there are some things that are non-negotiables. Investing and investing in myself are things that I have on my budget and I make sure that I fit it in there. I want to make sure that I'm accounting for that every single month so I don't miss it. I treat it like it's a bill. So the very first thing that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the emergency fund. So in the emergency fund, I want to make sure that I have maybe 2 to 6 months worth of expenses in that fund. And it's really going to be based off of what your risk tolerance is. I don't keep a lot of money in a savings account. I've made several videos on why I don't do that. But again, it's going to come back to what your risk tolerance is. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to be putting $200 a month into our emergency fund so we can make sure we get that built up to have a little bit of a cushion. So we're going to put $200 a month in there. And then pay yourself first. Now, this is something that's extremely important. I absolutely make sure that I do this every single month. I pay myself first. What is paying yourself first? Paying yourself first is you make sure that you allocate a specific amount of money every single month that's dedicated to improving yourself. That could be buying books, that could be taking courses, that could be going to seminars, anything that's going to help you to improve your overall self. Now, I'm going to put $100 a month in there. Again, that's going to be a number that you're going to select every single month and make sure that you do that to make sure you always continue to improve yourself. Now, savings, again, that's our emergency fund. We're not going to put anything additional into savings. We're just worried about building out our emergency fund. And then investing. So I started a investment challenge right here on this channel back in January of 2024, where I went in and I invested $5 every single day into the market. And I'm starting a new one in January of 2026. So if you want to jump into that, make sure you're budgeting that. And that comes out to about $100 a month. So we're going to budget $100 a month for investing. So we'll put that on there. And this is where we're going to get down. We're going to come down to our rent. I'm using $1,500 a month. If you recall, that's just a number right in the middle of the national average. And you'll have to tweak this to meet what your rent is in your local area. So that's $1,500 a month. Utilities. For utilities, I'm going to estimate that to be right around $300 a month for utilities. Car payment. So my opinion on car payments, really quick before I put this in here, if you have debt and you're not actually in a position to where you have excess cash every single month, I don't believe that you should have a car payment. I think it's a waste of money unless you have the money to do it, right? If you don't have any debt, you're investing, you've got money set off to the side that you can use for a rainy day or to invest, sure, whatever, you want to have a car, go ahead. But if you have debt and you're living check to check, a car payment is the last thing that you need. And the last average that I saw are new car payments are around $700 a month. But again, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to use $600 a month as a car payment. And then for car insurance, we're going to assume you're a good driver and you have full coverage, and that's going to run you around $200 a month. And gas, we'll say that's another $150 a month for gas. Now, I don't have maintenance here. Most people don't put money aside for car maintenance. You should. And I would probably do something like $50 a month just in an account, just for whenever I need to fix my car, oil change, whatever it may be. I have that money there, but I'm not going to put that in here for the purposes of this. So right now we have $1,850 left in our budget, but we need to make sure that we account for groceries. So food, it seems to be really expensive these days. But again, you're a single person and you're buying food at the grocery store. I'm going to put that at $500 a month. That may be really low for some people. So make sure you adjust that for your own budget when you put it together. And then we're going to go down and we are going to take a look at student loans. So many people have student loans either that are in forbearance or they're behind on loans and things of that nature. And then, of course, we had investments here. We'll take that off. We'll take a look at student loans. And some people have student loans, some people don't. But we're going to assume for the purposes of this budget that you don't have student loans. But if you do, you will want to make sure you account for that here. And then we're going to make sure we take a look. Most of us have cell phones. Let's say that's $150 a month for our cell phone. I have Capital One because most people have credit card debt, unfortunately. And I believe that the national average for people in the US is around $7,000. So we're going to put that down as $250 a month for our Capital One card. And then miscellaneous expenses would be like going out to eat, going out to the club, or just enjoying yourself. And unfortunately, this is what eats up most people's money, and they don't even realize it. They don't realize this is eating up most of their budget. But now that we're putting this together, we're going to make sure that we put a number on that. So we're going to put that at $200 a month. And then memberships, that would be like the gym, Apple Music, Spotify, things of that nature. We'll also put this at $100. Okay, so I've put some of the most basic bills into this budget tracker, and it looks like we have right around $650 a month left at the end of the day to play with. Now, this is what I was hoping to see, because if you have some excess in your budget, this is where you can start attacking any debt that you have. So we have Capital One on here. If you have $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 of credit card debt, you're going to want to make sure that every additional dollar that you have, that you're putting towards that credit card debt so you can get that paid off as quickly as possible. And then once you do that, it's like the snowball approach. Once you actually start paying off debt, you then take the money from that debt and you use it to pay off any other debt. So you had your Capital One card, you paid that off using this excess $650 every single month. Now you're going to start putting that towards your car to get that paid off if you have a car payment, or if you have student loans. You're going to use this additional money to make sure that you're paying off that debt as quickly as possible. You may take a hybrid approach. You may take half of that extra money and put that towards paying off your car. You may use the other half to start investing in the stock market. There's so many different ways that you can budget your money, but here's the thing. Once you understand where your money is going every single month, it gives you so much more control over your financial future. Oftentimes when we talk about putting a budget together, some people get bored with that. I remember just the thought of budgeting used to bore me. I don't know why. I think it was just because it was guardrails or restrictions, or it was restricting me from doing what I wanted to do. But I can tell you, and I'm going to guarantee you this, and if you're watching this video, I want you to come back in 30 or 60 days after putting your budget together. Let me know, did putting a budget together actually start showing you where your money was going? And if so, what surprised you the most? Were you surprised that you were spending so much money on eating out? Were you surprised that you had a bunch of subscriptions that you were paying for that you decided that you no longer needed, and you are now able to use that money to pay something else? I'm always extremely curious to see everyone's reaction once they put a budget together and they start to realize that they're spending their money on junk. So that's a very quick overview of how I would budget $60,000 a year annual income. Is it perfect? No. Do I have to make sure that all of my things fit in a specific category, such as the 50-30-20 or 75-10-15 approach? No. You have to put something together that works for you, that you can track over time. And the overall key is to ensure that the amount of money that you have going out every single month for debt is actually going down. So build a realistic budget, track it for 30 to 60 days, and then go in and make any necessary changes that you need to make to your budget to make sure that you could stay on track and reach your final destination.